The Alliance's discovery. The emergency meeting chamber of the Galactic Alliance buzzed with nervous energy. Supreme Commander Zilvex's four arms trembled slightly as they manipulated the holodisplay controls. Around the crescent-shaped table, representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations watched in stunned silence. "Play it again," ordered High Counselor Miran, her translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her agitation. The footage flickered to life once more. A barren landscape filled the display. Cracked, blackened ground stretching toward a horizon dominated by active volcanoes. Data scrolled along the bottom. Atmospheric pressure 3.2 times galactic standard. Temperature 63 degrees Celsius. Radiation levels that would cause cellular breakdown in most Alliance species within hours. Gravity 1.8 times Earth normal. And yet there they were. Humans. Not in environmental suits or protective bubbles, but wearing what appeared to be simple fabric uniforms with light armor plates. They moved through this hellscape with purpose, carrying equipment, setting up a perimeter, conducting what was clearly a military exercise. "This can't be accurate," whispered Ambassador T. Lorne, her feathery respiratory frills fluttering with distress. "The sensors must be malfunctioning." Intelligence Director Kavosh cleared his throat. "All three of them. I assure you, the data is correct. What you're seeing is a standard human Marine Corps training exercise on what they classify as a moderate challenge environment. They call this planet Tartarus. Moderate." The word escaped Senior Admiral Quall as more of a squeak than a question. "This environment would kill 90% of our species within minutes. That's precisely why we've called this meeting," said Zilvex, all four of his eyes blinking in sequence. "We need to reassess everything we thought we knew about our human allies." The Alliance had welcomed humans into their fold 8 stellar cycles ago. The bipedal mammals from Earth had seemed unremarkable at first, technologically advanced enough for spaceflight, but not particularly impressive by galactic standards. Their homeworld was considered unusually varied in climate, but nothing that suggested extraordinary environmental tolerance. Yet here was evidence that humankind's capabilities had been severely underestimated. "Look at them," Marin said, leaning forward. "They're not just surviving. They're thriving. Training. Why would any species deliberately subject themselves to such conditions?" Kavosh manipulated a data tablet. "Our analysts believe it's related to their evolutionary history. Earth has extreme environmental variation by galactic standards. From Arctic regions to scorching deserts, high mountains to deep oceans, humans adapted not by specializing, but by becoming extraordinarily versatile. And now they're pushing those adaptations even further," Zilvex added grimly. On the display, a human officer was addressing her squad, pointing toward a distant ridgeline, shimmering with heat distortion. The soldiers nodded, adjusted their equipment, and began moving out. "What are they saying?" asked Ambassador T. Lorne. Kavosh activated the audio translation. "Listen up, people." The human officer's voice filled the chamber. "That ridge marks the beginning of the methane fields. Atmospheric composition changes beyond it, so full respirators from this point forward. The gravity will increase to about 2.1 g as we descend into the basin. Remember your training. Adjust your stride. Conserve energy. Report any symptoms immediately. This isn't about being heroes. It's about adapting and overcoming." Questions. A younger human raised a hand. "Captain, Intel says there's indigenous microfauna in the basin. Anything we should worry about?" "Good question, Martinez. The microbes are silicon-based and extremely acidic. They won't affect our equipment, but any exposure to skin will cause chemical burns. That's why we're wearing the sealed layers beneath your fatigues. Full decontamination protocols when we return to base." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans weren't just visiting this death world. They were deliberately engaging with its most dangerous elements. Are they preparing for war? T. Lorne finally asked, voicing the fear gripping every representative. Zilvex closed all four eyes briefly. We don't know, but we need to find out. Captain Maya Rodriguez wiped sweat from her brow as she consulted her tactical display. Behind her, Echo Squad moved with practiced efficiency, setting up the forward operating base in the shadow of a massive volcanic outcropping. Thermal shields deployed, Captain, Sergeant Way reported. Should drop the ambient temperature to merely awful. Rodriguez nodded. Good work. How's Martinez doing? We glanced toward where the young private was adjusting a monitoring station, better than expected for his first death world. Bit shaky during the ridge crossing, but he didn't freeze up. Good. He'll need that composure tomorrow when we hit the basin. Rodriguez checked the atmospheric readings again. The methane concentration was increasing as predicted. Have everyone double-check their respirator seals before they sleep. I don't want anyone suffocating because they got sloppy. Yes, Mom. As Y moved away, Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of pride. Echo Squad was performing exceptionally well, especially considering half of them were on their first extreme environment deployment. The Tartarus training program was rigorous by anyone's standards, even for humans. The planet had been discovered during initial Alliance mapping expeditions, then promptly classified as uninhabitable by every species except humans, which made it perfect for what Earth Command had in mind. Rodriguez activated her comm link. Sierra Base, this is Echo Actual. Forward position established. All systems nominal. The response came with slight static interference. The planet's magnetic field played havoc with communications. Echo Actual. Sierra Base. Acknowledged. Status of the package. Rodriguez glanced toward the heavily shielded container secured at the center of their camp. Package is secure. Will deploy at 700 local time. Understood. Be advised we're tracking unusual orbital activity. Possible surveillance. Maintain Protocol Sigma. Rodriguez frowned. Sigma Protocol meant they might be under observation, most likely by Alliance members curious about what humans were doing on a planet classified as a death trap. Copy that. Echo Actual out. She switched off the comm and stared at the horizon. 3 moons were rising, casting strange, overlapping shadows across the blasted landscape. In the distance, a geyser of superheated gas erupted from a fissure, glowing eerily in the darkness. Beautiful, in its way. Rodriguez had never understood why other species found these environments so terrifying. Challenging, certainly. Dangerous, without question. But also magnificent in their raw, untamed power. Humans had always been drawn to such places. The highest mountains, the deepest oceans, the most remote deserts. It was part of what made them human. And now, it was what made them unique among the spacefaring races of the Alliance. Captain. Lieutenant Park approached, offering a hydration pack. You should drink. The atmospheric desiccation rate is increasing. Rodriguez accepted it with a nod. How's the team? Corporal Jenkins is treating specialists Okafor and Chen for minor radiation burns. Nothing serious. Everyone else is within acceptable physical parameters. And psychologically. Park smiled. They're making jokes about beach vacations and saunas. I'd say morale is surprisingly good. Gallows humor. Classic coping mechanism. Rodriguez drank deeply from the pack. The water was warm and had the slightly metallic taste of purification tablets, but it was wet. Get some rest, Lieutenant. Tomorrow will be challenging. Park saluted and withdrew to his assigned shelter. Rodriguez made one final circuit of the perimeter, checking equipment and exchanging brief words with the soldiers on watch. Everything was proceeding according to plan. If all went well, they would accomplish their mission and be off this rock within 3 days. What the Alliance would make of it all was another question entirely. In high orbit above Tartarus, the cloaked observation vessel Silent Witness maintained its vigilant watch. The ship's commander, Intelligence Officer Pelverin, studied the sensor readings with growing concern. They've established a base directly on the surface, he reported to the secure quantum link connecting him to Alliance High Command. No environmental dome, no force fields. Just basic shelter structures. Supreme Commander Zilvex's voice came through clearly despite the vast distance. What about their package? Have you identified it? Negative. It's heavily shielded. Our sensors can't penetrate it. But whatever it is, they're treating it with extreme care. Options. Pelverin hesitated. We could deploy surface probes for closer observation, but the environmental conditions make that risky. And if the humans detect them, we can't risk a diplomatic incident. Zilvex agreed. Continue orbital surveillance. If they deploy the package, record everything. Understood. There's something else you should know. Pelverin adjusted the transmission. We've detected elevated radiation levels in their base area, not from the planet. It's coming from their equipment. These humans aren't just training in lethal conditions. They're actively making them worse. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. The truth revealed. Dawn on Tartarus was a spectacular affair. As the system's primary star crested the horizon, it ignited the methane-rich atmosphere into a sea of blue and orange flame that danced across the sky. Captain Rodriguez watched the display while Echo Squad prepared for the day's mission. Beautiful light show, commented Sergeant Way, joining her at the perimeter. Atmospheric methane combustion, Rodriguez replied. Happens every dawn and dusk. Completely natural. Try telling that to the Alliance species who die of heart attacks just watching it, Way said with a chuckle. Rodriguez didn't respond immediately. The sergeant wasn't wrong. Most Alliance races evolved on worlds with relatively stable environments. Predictable weather patterns, minimal seismic activity, regulated day-night cycles. Earth, with its wild environmental variations, seasonal extremes, and geological instability, would have been considered marginally habitable by their standards. And Tartarus? Pure nightmare fuel. Time to move out, she said finally. Is the package ready for transport? We nodded. Martinez and Chen have it secured. Radiation shielding is holding steady. Good. Remind everyone. The basin will test our limits. Gravity, atmospheric pressure, temperature, everything gets worse from here. We stick together, we follow protocols, we complete the mission. The squad formed up, each member carrying their standard equipment plus specialized gear for the extreme conditions. The heavily shielded package was secured to a hover sled between 4 soldiers. Rodriguez gave the signal, and Echo Squad began their descent toward the methane basin. Aboard the Silent Witness, alarms blared as sensors detected the humans' movement. They're on the move, Pelverin reported to High Command. Heading toward the methane basin, the most lethal environment on an already lethal planet. The basin was a vast depression, where Tartarus's already hellish conditions intensified. Gravity increased to nearly 2.5 times galactic standard due to an unusual mineral concentration. Atmospheric pressure doubled, temperatures soared, and the methane concentration reached levels that should have made any activity impossible without the most advanced environmental systems. Yet these humans were walking into it with what appeared to be minimal protection. They must have some purpose beyond training, Zilvex responded. No species would endure such conditions without compelling reason. The package supplied Intelligence Director Kavosh, who had joined the communication. Whatever they're carrying must be worth the risk. Or, added High Counselor Miran's voice, the risk itself is the point. Explain, demanded Zilvex. Consider the strategic implications, Miran said. If the Alliance believed humans could effectively operate in environments no other species could survive, how would that affect diplomatic and military calculations? Silence greeted her words as the implication became clear. They're demonstrating capability, Zilvex finally said, showing what they can do. Perhaps, Kavosh sounded thoughtful. But to whom? And why now? The descent into the basin was grueling. With each step, the increasing gravity tugged at muscles and joints, making every movement a conscious effort. The team had trained for these conditions, but simulation could only prepare you so much for the real thing. Status check, Rodriguez called over the squad frequency. Reports came back, strained but determined. Everyone was functioning within acceptable parameters. The package remained secure. They reached the basin floor by midday. The landscape here was different, smooth, almost glassy in places, with strange formations rising like twisted sculptures from the ground. Silicon-rich environment, Lieutenant Park explained, scanning the area with specialized equipment. The extreme conditions create natural glass-like structures. Beautiful, breathed Martinez, momentarily forgetting their purpose. And deadly, added Y. Touch those formations without protection, and they'll slice through your suit like it's tissue paper. Rodriguez consulted her nav system. Deployment site is 2 kilometers east. Let's move. They proceeded carefully, picking their way through the treacherous terrain. The atmospheric pressure made breathing laborious even with their respirators, and the heat was almost unbearable. But they pushed on, step by deliberate step. When they finally reached the designated coordinates, Rodriguez signaled a halt. Secure the perimeter. Park, Okafor, prepare the package for deployment. The lieutenant and specialist moved to the hover sled, carefully beginning the deployment sequence for the mysterious container. That's when disaster struck. A tremor shook the ground, subtle at first, then increasingly violent. Not uncommon on Tartarus, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Seismic activity, shouted Y. Captain, readings are spiking. Before Rodriguez could respond, a fissure opened directly beneath the hover sled. The ground split with a sound like shattering glass, and the package, along with Park and Okafor, dropped into the widening crevice. Park, Okafor. Rodriguez rushed to the edge, Y close behind. The fissure wasn't deep, perhaps 10 meters, but its walls were lined with the razor-sharp silicon formations. At the bottom, the package lay on its side, seemingly intact. Park was moving, trying to help Okafor, who appeared injured. Status, Rodriguez called down. Alive, Park's voice came back, strained. Okafor's suit is compromised. Left leg laceration. The package is, he paused to check readings. Stable, but the shielding is damaged. Radiation leakage in 2 minutes if not repaired. Rodriguez made a split-second decision. Y, secure a line. I'm going down. Captain, the radiation will kill us all if that package breaches. The mission parameters just changed from deployment to containment. In orbit, Pelverin watched the unfolding crisis with growing alarm. The container is damaged, he reported. I'm detecting radiation signatures consistent with, by the cosmic balance. What is it? Demanded Zilvex. If my readings are correct, that package contains element 731. Experimental terraforming material. Highly unstable, incredibly dangerous. Terraforming. Zilvex sounded confused. Why would they bring terraforming material to a death world? Intelligence Director Kavash's voice cut in. Because they don't see it as a death world. They see it as a future colony. Rodriguez descended into the fissure, the increased gravity making the climb down almost as difficult as it would be going up. She reached Park and Okafor quickly. The specialist's suit had been slashed by silicon formations, exposing his leg to the caustic atmosphere. Park had applied emergency sealant, but Okafor needed medical attention soon. The package first, Okafor insisted through gritted teeth. I can hold on. Rodriguez nodded and moved to the container. Its outer shielding was cracked, and the diagnostic panel flashed urgent warnings. She accessed the emergency protocols and began the containment sequence. Captain, Way called from above. Atmospheric readings are changing. Something's happening. Rodriguez felt it too, a shift in pressure, a change in the air despite her respirator. The tremors had released something from deep within the planet. Captain Rodriguez, a new voice came through her comm, not one of her squad. This is Alliance Intelligence Officer Pelverin. We've been observing your mission. Your container is leaking element 731. Combined with the planetary conditions, it could trigger a runaway reaction. You need to evacuate immediately. Rodriguez froze momentarily. So they had been watched. Negative. Abandoning the package would guarantee contamination. We're containing it now. The risk is too great, Pelverin insisted. That material could transform the entire planet's atmosphere within hours. That's the point, Rodriguez replied, continuing her work on the container. Why do you think we're here? In the Alliance emergency chamber, confusion reigned. Terraforming, repeated Ambassador T. Lorne. They're trying to make that hellscape habitable. Not just habitable, corrected Intelligence Director Kavash. Habitable for themselves. The process would make the planet even more lethal to most Alliance species. But why? Asked Marin. There are countless suitable worlds within their territory. Zilvex suddenly understood. Because they can. Because no one else would even attempt it. It's a demonstration, not of military might, but of adaptive capability. We need to speak with them directly, decided Marin. Authorize Pelverin to make contact. With Park's help, Rodriguez stabilized the package. The radiation leakage was contained, though some element 731 had already escaped into the atmosphere. They secured Okafor to a rescue harness and began the arduous process of climbing out of the fissure. As they reached the top, Rodriguez was surprised to see a small Alliance shuttle hovering nearby. It shouldn't have been possible. The atmospheric conditions should have made such a craft inoperable. The voice came through an external speaker. Captain Rodriguez, I am Intelligence Officer Pelverin. With your permission, I would like to land and assist with your injured crew member. Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded. Mission parameters included contingencies for first contact with Alliance observers. The shuttle set down, its hull visibly straining against the harsh conditions. The hatch opened, and a heavily protected figure emerged in what appeared to be an advanced environmental suit. Your crewman needs immediate medical attention, Pelverin said. Our shuttle has facilities that can treat him. Rodriguez removed her respirator. The immediate area around the shuttle seemed to have been environmentally modified to make it breathable. Yes, Tartarus Project is a long-term initiative to transform deadly worlds into habitable colonies. But why choose such an extreme environment? There are far more suitable candidates for terraforming. Rodriguez smiled slightly. That's what the Alliance doesn't understand about humans. We don't just adapt to our environment. We adapt our environment to us. And we start with the most challenging cases precisely because they are challenging. As a demonstration of capability, Pelverin suggested. As a test of our limits, Rodriguez corrected. Humans have always pushed boundaries. It's in our nature. This isn't about showing off to the Alliance. It's about seeing what we can achieve. Pelverin was silent for a moment. The Alliance has misunderstood your intentions. There were concerns that these training exercises on Death Worlds might be preparation for other activities. Military action. Rodriguez shook her head. We're explorers and colonizers first. Soldiers second. Yes, we train our military in extreme conditions because it makes them more effective. But our goal isn't conquest, it's expansion. There are countless worlds out there that the Alliance has written off as uninhabitable, that humans could live on with minimal adaptation. Or that you could adapt to yourselves, added Pelverin, understanding dawning. Your species sees opportunity where others see only danger. Exactly. And that's what we bring to the Alliance. A different perspective. 3 months later, a formal delegation from Earth met with the Galactic Alliance High Council. Captain Rodriguez, now Major Rodriguez, stood before the assembled representatives. The Tartarus Project has exceeded expectations, she reported. Initial terraforming has established a self-sustaining cycle. Within 5 years, the planet will be habitable for humans and several other Alliance species with minimal environmental protection. Remarkable, admitted High Counselor Mirren. From Death World to colony in less than a decade. And this is just the beginning, added Earth's ambassador. We've identified 27 similar candidates within Alliance space, worlds previously considered worthless that humans can transform into valuable assets. Supreme Commander Zilvex leaned forward. And in return, what does Earth want for this contribution? Partnership, Rodriguez answered simply. Humans can go places and do things that other Alliance species cannot. In turn, other species have capabilities we lack. Together, we can accomplish what neither could alone. Later, as Rodriguez left the chamber, Intelligence Director Kavash approached her privately. "You've changed how the Alliance sees humans," he said. "Before, you were just another member species. Now, prompted Rodriguez when he hesitated. Kavash's three throats worked nervously. "Now you're the species that treats death worlds as training grounds and sees hellscapes as opportunities. It's unsettling." Rodriguez smiled. "Good. A little unsettling keeps everyone on their toes. But remember, we're on your side." "And if you weren't?" Kavash couldn't help asking. Rodriguez's smile faded. "Then you'd be right to be afraid. But that's not who we are. Humans don't want to conquer the galaxy. We just want to explore it. All of it. Even the parts that might kill us." As she walked away, Kavash reflected that this was both reassuring and terrifying, much like humanity itself. On the horizon of possibility, countless worlds waited, deadly, beautiful, challenging, and humans, ever adaptable, were ready to embrace them all.